Welcome back to my Cisco Secure Firewall series. Today, we're going to talk about something that's pretty common amongst different firewalls and different vendors. Firewall rules. If you don't have firewall rules, you probably don't have a firewall. Today, we're going to spend just a few minutes talking about what access control policies are. What do they do? How do you configure them? Where do they live? Let's get started. Welcome back to Security Cloud Control. Here's where we have the cdFMC, or this Cloud Delivered Firewall Management Center. There is where I'm going to make some changes to the policies. I'm going to create a rule within my access control policy, and I'll show you how simple that is. Now that I'm in SCC, we're going to go over to Policies and Firewall Threat Defense. This is going to bring me into that Cloud Delivered FMC. Now, these are the policies that I have out there. Two policies, one that's out of the box, the default, and then I created the one policy here for the lab, this main DAVNet policy. As you can see there, 20% optimizable. And what is that? There's one anomaly in my rule set. We're going to talk about that next time, AI Ops, and how AI Ops can help you clean up your rule sets. You can use AI Ops within your rule sets in a cloud delivered FMC to clean up the thousands and thousands of rules you have. You have shadow rules. Do you have duplicate objects? What's going on with your rule set? You want to bring it down from thousands to maybe a couple hundred. Over the years, things build up. Rule sets don't look that good, especially if people forget to clean things up. AI Ops can help with that, and we'll spend some time talking about that next time. Now, this is the main DAVNet policy, the single policy I have for the two firewalls that I have. Now, if I wanted to, I can create a separate policy, let's say a main overarching policy that can apply to all my firewalls. And then to each individual firewall, I can create a policy that is nested inside that main policy. So if I wanted to have some rules that apply to all of my locations, I can do that. And then the individual rule sets for those locations for their use cases, I can do that as well. But in this situation, I have a single policy for both firewalls. We'll click on this policy, and we'll see here that I don't have thousands of rules. I have 5 rules, and they're all set to allow. However, at the bottom of the allow, of all those allows, we have a default action. And the default action that I have there is to block all traffic. Now, you can set that to trust all traffic. I'm not going to do that. I want to block anything that doesn't hit a specific rule. I want to log that. I want to see what's going on with it. Perhaps it's something that I forgot that does need to be allowed. So I have my default action to block traffic. And if you're familiar with firewalls, if you're familiar with access lists, packets come in, they get processed, it's top down, it's going to go to the first rule. Is this rule for me? No. Next rule, is this rule for me? And so on and so forth. However, we have some left to right processing happening as well. If you look at the top here, packets come into our box and they hit a pre-filter rule. That's the first thing that happens. We'll spend some time talking about pre-filter policies in the future as well. But if there's some traffic that you don't want to have this access control rule inspection, if you don't want to have intrusion inspection for, you can create a pre-filter rule for it. For example, backup traffic, maybe there's something that you really trust that does not require additional inspection. It needs to just go through. You can have a pre-filter rule for that. You definitely do not want to do that for everything because that's not what the box is for. You want to do some inspection. We have the pre-filter rule. We have decryption that we can take a look at. Security intelligence. What am I blocking? What am I allowing out there that's malicious? We have some do not block lists. If there's something specific that I don't want it flagged, I know it's trustworthy, I'm going to put it in a custom list, or it's going to be in these global lists. I also have these block lists that are out there. All this information comes from Cisco Talos shared across the devices. So it's important to get those updates so you can keep up with what's malicious, what's bad out there. You can automatically have that security intelligence to block these things, and you can create your own list as well. You can also have a DNS policy. There's different types of policy outside of the access control policy, intrusion, DNS, different policies that you can also reference. file policies to inspect different files that are traversing the network. Uh, that DNS policy is referenced here under security intelligence. You can have an identity policy if you want specific users, a rule for specific users in your organization, HR, accounting. You can do that as well. But we're going to take a look at access control today. Let's take a look at what makes up a rule. We'll click into this quarantine rule. And we can see here that I have my zones. I have the source zones. I have destination zones out there. If we go to networks, this rule is pretty much align all networks within that zone. You might have specific networks that you're going to take a look at within zones for your rules. You can have ports that are out there. Are you just looking at 80, 443, telnet? You can reference different applications in your rules. There's different specific applications. Then there's also filters as well. So different categories that you can take a look at of applications that can be referenced as well. If you want to block a certain category, you can do that. Like I mentioned, the users, you can reference different identities. That way a specific rule is for a specific identity. You can do that as well. URLs, we're going to actually create a URL rule today to block a specific URL, but you can reference that here. You can have categories, you can have specific URLs. Today, we're going to manually enter a URL. Not the best practice. You always want to reference lists where possible. However, I'm going to be just doing the non-best practice version of this. There's also dynamic attributes that can be referenced. We spent a previous video talking about secure group tags. You can reference those SGTs within your rule set. So an identity comes online, somebody from HR, they're tagged with tag 15. You can reference tag 15 here within your rule set as well. Let's go back out. And you'll notice here there's a couple of icons. There's logging. Logging is on for these rules. I also have my file policy on for inspecting files that are traversing. I also have an IPS policy, and we'll talk about those in the near future. Everything's under mandatory. You can also have some default rules. If things were nested, you would see another mandatory here from the main policy that applies to all your firewalls, then the local mandatory default, and then the main big default from the main policy if you were doing anything that was nesting. Now, let's create a rule here. So let's go to add a rule. And we're going to call this block example.com. Let's block example.com. Let's do it for the Wi-Fi and for the lab. We're going to add those to the source, and everything outside of here is on the outside zone. So we'll add that to the destination. We're going to select block. We have other, if we want to trust it, if we want to just monitor it, that way we can log it and it goes to the next rule. You can do that as well. We want to just block this. So we'll block it. We want to log. It's a block rule, so we only have the option to log at the beginning of the connection. If this was an allow, you would see the end of connection as well allow as an option. You could check all the boxes, but of course you might run out of space somewhere where you're sending your logs. Usually best practice is to log at the end of the connection if it's an allow rule. With the block, it's just at the beginning of the connection. We're going to confirm that. We're not doing anything that's a time range. We want to enable this rule. We want to insert it into the mandatory, but we're going to do it above a rule, and we'll do it at the top. I keep my block rules at the top. It's the first thing that gets hit. So into quarantine, you can add comments as well if you wanted to, or if there's something for change management that you need to add in there, always add comments. I'm not going to. So now let's apply this rule, making sure I don't forget anything here. We'll hit apply. Well, actually, I forgot the main thing. Let's actually block the website. So what we want to do is we want to go back. We don't care about networks. We don't care about ports or apps, users. We want to do URLs. So let that load. Go to URLs. Again, always reference the list where possible, but I'm just going to block example.com. Let's block that domain. All right. And then we'll add that URL. So now we have that URL as the destination. We'll hit apply. There we go. Blockexample.com. We'll save. If I had submitted that or deployed that earlier, I'd probably block everything. So thankfully, I'm only blocking that URL. Now, I've saved the rule. I've added a new rule. It's here at the top. Uh, but I want to deploy this to my firewall. So I'll click deploy. I have two firewalls in there. I know this one is not live. It's currently turned off. So I just want to deploy to the first firewall. If I wanted to schedule the deploy, you can do that as well. We'll click deploy. And we'll give this just a minute or two for it to process and deploy. Rule has been pushed. We have a completed there. Let's try going to our example.com. And you can go to example.com. It is a real site. All right. Nothing is happening, which is pretty much a good sign. Let's try going to cisco.com. Okay. So things are still working overall, but example.com doesn't seem to be loading. Let's go back out. Let's go to our policy editor. Let's do some analysis here. We'll go to analyze. We'll go to manage rule hit counts. Let's click on that. We will fetch these rules again. Playing around with this earlier, we can see the block specific site had 5 hits there. With this new rule of blockexample.com, I have the rule hit count as 2. So this is working. Site is being blocked. Didn't load. There we go. Okay. Can't be reached. Perfect. However, I don't want to just look at hit counts. Let's go over to the event logs. So we'll go event and logs, event logging. That'll bring us out into Security Cloud Control where everything logging is housed. Now, with cdFMC, you have some options. You can use the logging here within Security Cloud Controls. You can send to a SIM. You can also send logs to a on-prem FMC, physical appliance VM, as long as it's dedicated for logging. You can do that as well, and you can get some rich logs. I'm using the logging within Security Cloud Control. We'll go to Events and Logs. We'll click on Events. Dismiss that. And let's make some changes here. We can see the traffic. However, I want to change this. Let's go to Filter. We're going to say we want to see everything for today. 6, okay, but let's do block. I don't really block traffic here in the labs, so we'll just do block. We'll see what pops up. There should be some traffic that is blocked. We'll let it do its thing, and we'll see what comes up. There we go. We have some traffic that's been blocked. All right. There's some previous packets that were blocked earlier. These are the recent packets that were blocked. As you can see there, 8443 was blocked. We'll talk about what this is on the right side. Most of the traffic out there on the internet is encrypted. Let's say you don't want to do full decryption. You have the ability with Secure Firewall to do encrypted traffic analytics. We'll talk about that next time. However, let's take a look at this log here. We can see it was from Chrome. The firewall rule hit blockexample.com. And again, I can change my columns and I can add all this information as a column if I wanted to, but I wanted to open this up here. We can see that example.com is the one that's being blocked. So that block rule worked exactly and did exactly what I wanted it to do. It was that easy to mess around with access control policies. And there's so much more that we can do within the policy sets. There's so much that we can do overall with Secure Firewall, and we'll explore that over the coming weeks. Thank you for joining me. I will see you on the next one.